everybody! Welcome to another episode of Reacting Reddit, where real humans read, react, and summarize trending topics and stories. Today we're going to be talking about Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is a British talk show host who's been ridden with controversy. Definitely a controversial figure. So the latest controversy isn't necessarily anything new, but what happened? So in the middle of his show, one of his co-hosts critiqued him for Piers's mistreatment and obsession with talking shit about Prince Harry's wife, basically, okay? And these comments by Alex Beresford, who was commenting on Piers Morgan's behavior, were actually very genuine. He was not being aggressive with Piers. He was calling Piers out for talking so much shit. And from my perspective, Alex seemed to be very genuine in that moment. And Piers could have actually talked about it or addressed it, but instead he just walked away and ran off. And that's what you're hearing about. So now let's get more context into Piers Morgan. So from Wikipedia, Piers Stefan Pughe-Morgan is an English broadcaster, journalist, writer, and television personality. Morgan first began his Fleet Street career in 1988, becoming a writer and editor for several British tabloids, including The Sun, News of the World, and the Daily Mirror. In 1994, aged 29, he was appointed editor of the News of the World by Rupert Murdoch, which made him the youngest editor of a British national newspaper in more than half of a century. From 2006 to 2007, he was the editorial director at First News. On television, Morgan has hosted his own talk show, Piers Morgan Life Stories, 2009 to present, and Piers Morgan Live, 2011 to 2014. Co-presented the ITV Breakfast program, Good Morning Britain, 2015 to 2021, with Susanna Reid, and judged on the talent competition show America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent. In 2008, he won the 7th season of the US Celebrity Apprentice. Morgan has written 8 books, including 4 volumes of memoirs. Morgan's outspoken views and controversial comments on Good Morning Britain led Ofcom to adjudicate on multiple occasions. On 9th of March 2021, ITV announced that Morgan decided to leave the program with immediate effect, following negative comments he made about Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, in the days after the US airing of the Oprah with Meghan and Harry interview. Ofcom received over 57,000 complaints from viewers, including a complaint from the Duchess of Sussex. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce Duchess, I don't know how to say it. Moving on, now to the news. What happened? Let's summarize it a bit more. The controversial host started his career in England, where, this is by Reuters, by the way, where at age 28, he was the youngest editor of a national newspaper, Rupert Murdoch's now defunct News of the World tabloid. He was fired as editor of England's Daily Mirror in 2004 after the newspaper published false photographs of Iraqi prisoners apparently being abused by British soldiers. Morgan gained fame in the United States after becoming a judge on Simon Cowell's TV show, America's Got Talent, and as the winner of The Celebrity Apprentice. Morgan, age 48, replaced veteran host Larry King on CNN to host the interview show Piers Morgan Live in 2011. After criticizing pro-gun guests on his show following the Newtown, Connecticut killings in December that left 26 dead, including 20 children, more than 48,000 people signed a petition demanding for him to be deported. Is that possible? Can you actually petition someone to be deported? Page 6 adds, Markle herself allegedly complained to the ITV CEO, Dame Carolyn McCall, after Morgan dubbed her Princess Pinocchio, and said he didn't believe her account of feeling suicidal while pregnant with her son, Archie, and she thought the comments could affect people dealing with their own mental health issues. After the initial blow-up over his comments, Morgan then said on air, "It's not for me to question if she felt suicidal. I am not in her mind, and that is for her to say. My real concern was a disbelief, frankly, and I'm prepared to be proven wrong on this, and if I'm wrong, it is a scandal. That she went to a senior member of the royal household and told them she was suicidal, and she was told she could not have any help because it would look bad for the family. If that is true, that person should be fired, and the royal family have serious questions that need to be answered. So what he's saying is that people are taking his comments as he was saying he doesn't believe that she was suicidal, but that's not what he was saying. What he was saying is that he doesn't believe that Markle, went to the royal family and asked for help, and that the royal family said no. That's the part that he doesn't believe, right? The Daily Wire adds, The Guardian understands a formal... the Daily Wire, I got this from the Daily Wire, but they were saying that the Guardian said something. Alright, I know, it's confusing. This whole episode is just so confusing. I honestly hate doing trending content where it's just like, oh, you need to know about this person because they talk shit about this person, and that person talks shit about this person, and this person runs this newspaper, and this person's part of the royal... Fucking A, it's so hard to keep track. Why do people give a fuck about this shit? I hate this. Moving on. The Guardian understands a formal complaint was lodged with ITV on behalf of the Duchess after the broadcast, The Guardian reported. The Telegraph also reported that a complaint was made. Meghan Markle filed a formal complaint with British broadcaster ITV after a presenter criticized her claims against the royal family and later quit, Barron's reported. Britain's Domestic Press Association news agency said it understood Meghan formally complained to ITV before he resigned, confirming a report in the Daily Telegraph newspaper. The complaint focused on how his remarks may affect those trying to deal with their own mental health problems, it added. On Wednesday, Morgan fired back at his critics after his comments on Good Morning Britain, after Markle's interview with Oprah Winfrey precipitated outrage and led to him leaving the show. Morgan tweeted, "Freedom of speech is a hill I'm happy to die on. On Monday, I said I didn't believe Meghan Markle in her Oprah interview." Morgan wrote, "I've had time to reflect on this opinion, and I still don't. If you did, okay. Freedom of speech is a hill I'm happy to die on. Thanks for all the love and the hate. I'm off to spend more time with my opinions." Alright, now let's see what people on Reddit think. One second. So I will drop a line here and say that, yeah, there's been some interesting comparisons to this guy, and it's honestly very hard to make. Piers Morgan is a British person and has a lot of history in England, and I don't know about it. I don't know what English people think about him. All I know is that in the moment where he walked off the show, he looked really bad. The guy who was criticizing him was being very sincere and very honest. And basically, the guy who was criticizing Piers was literally like, look, life's hard for these people like royal family. I know we don't think of them as having it hard, but they're the focus of everything. And we can't be talking shit about them when they're just getting married. Why is so many people just talking shit? It's a wedding. It's supposed to be something good. Yet all the press coverage is really negative, really hurtful, really hateful. Can you imagine what it's like to be that couple getting married while the press is making a big deal about it, saying it's wrong and attacking you all the time? And you, Piers, make it worse. Why are you still talking shit about Meghan? And then he literally, Piers, instead of like defending himself or explaining himself, he literally was like, I don't need to deal with this, and walked off the set. So usually the person who reacts that way is in the wrong. A person who's very honest and sincere is able to defend their opinion when somebody calls them out. A person who just storms off is usually in denial. So that's why, like, I don't know enough about Piers to make this video, but it's my job to still make these videos. That being said, my gut feels like Piers is just in the wrong. I don't know much about him, but he definitely didn't seem to handle that well. The Average Heathen says, I feel like Meghan dropped a nugget there when talking about her dad, that the institution could intervene and squash his story, but she wouldn't be able to use that leverage in the future should her child need it. You know, because royals typically have to cover shit up for their children. If only the British press were as hard on Prince Andrew when he was raping teenagers with Epstein. Yeah, so it is true that I'm not saying it's true that Prince Andrew rapes teenagers with Epstein, but Epstein was a known pedophile, and that's like proven, totally proven. And Epstein also was killed while he was in jail and was a part of a bigger picture. And the bigger picture didn't get consequences, the people involved. So basically, it's known that Epstein was a part of a group of kind of elite, very wealthy people who engaged in sexual acts, including sexual acts with children. And from what I understand, it's not like they just liked raping kids. It's like they did basically everything that was unimaginable, and having sex with children was one of those things that Epstein did, and people associated with Epstein did. So there's a lot of photographic evidence that Prince Andrew has partied extensively with Epstein. And actually also Piers shows up in photos with Epstein as well. So there's a definite association. Classic Flavor says, just out of curiosity, how does 80 million people in the United States, Trump, Saturday Night Live, insulin, Biden, the Middle East, liberty, freedom, and the future date of 50 to 100 years down the road relate to the coverage of Prince Andrew from British tabloids? Relate. I don't get that. Doom Desire 23 says, at no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. But fuck Trump, fuck Biden for raising insulin prices. I'm confused by all this. Somebody said that to me at one point. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. I think that that is a sarcastic response when somebody actually says something very, very specific with like one sentence. So I guess this previous comment by Classic Flavor was pointing out why the US relates to coverage of Prince Andrew from British tabloids. And that's above me. Maybe you listening to this, you understand it. But I'm going to try and figure out where this sentence is from. At no point in your rambling... Okay, let's go to here. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response... Oh, here we go. Okay, so it's a movie called Billy Madison, and it's a quote. Okay, apparently the principal says, Mr. Madison, what you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. So I'll have to watch... I don't get it. It's either sarcasm or literal. That didn't help us at all. Classic Flavor says, don't be too harsh. They might come back and shock us when they somehow show us that if only 80 million people in the US could get over 4 years of trashing Trump, we would all have a much better understanding of why the British press didn't go hard on Prince Andrew. All this time, as a Brit, I thought it was due to the press's baron's close relationship with Andrew, but no, according to Stay Classy Florida, it's actually the fault of 80 million Americans. Congratulations, I see you as no more than a telemarketer about my car's extended warranty. Bit harsh to shit on an oddly specific field of telemarketing. If telemarketing bothers you that much, best speak with that 80 million you blame for all the world's problems, including the British tabloid press. I get it. So there was a comment we didn't see where somebody claimed that this was a US problem when really it's about British tabloids. I understand now, finally. Absolute Shite says, the vegan sausage roll argument was baffling. This is an argument by Piers Morgan. I guess he went on a rant about vegan sausage rolls. Any business with any long-term strategy will create a second or 100th product using basically the same ingredients to offer choice or the illusion of choice to their customers. You're taught in this in every economics class when discussing economies of scale. It's not even like a milk alternative argument where dairy farmers might be losing market share to oats, almonds, etc. Pig farmers were never getting the vegans' money in the first place. Coco Besoil says, he broke his usual dickish attitude to attack the government over their coronavirus response, so some gave him a pass. Me? I remember fake photos of troops abusing prisoners in Iraq he published on the front page of a UK newspaper. Yeah, people really don't like him for that. That's the main thing to know about him, I guess, is that he published these photos that made it look like soldiers, British soldiers in Iraq were abusing Iraqi citizens, and it turned out to actually be falsified and was basically like propaganda from like terrorism, basically, and he had literally perpetuated it, so that's not ideal. Correct Peanut 5 says, why on earth is he still on television? I would have thought that after he flamed out on CNN he'd be done. But there seems to be no end to people willing to give him trucks full of money to be a shit presenter. Yeah, and you know what's crazy is that, like, yeah, he's had petitions to get him fired and to get him deported and to, like, complaints. But there's actually more petitions to get him reinstated than those petitions. So even though he seems to be a raging asshole, it appears that he's in bed with the white supremacists that rule our world, unfortunately. You know, that's one of the hard things to talk about. Like, talking about any kind of racism is so hard because you can't, like, okay, I'm a white person and I benefit from the fact that my ancestors raped, murdered, and pillaged the rest of the world. I have an easier life because most of the world idolizes the United States and white people. Even in countries that the United States totally fucked over. Like right now, I live in Latin America. I live in Nicaragua. And in Nicaragua, the United States fucks Nicaragua. Totally fucks Nicaragua. The United States sent forces here, waged war here. The US sold cocaine to its own citizens and then illegally sold weapons to Iran and used all that money to fund a war here in Nicaragua where the US put a dictator in power. The US fucks Nicaragua. Yet, to this day, when I live here, people idolize the United States. They idolize white people. Here, if I'm next to a local Nicaraguan person, and I see a police officer, the police officer will treat the local better simply because I'm there. And it's fucked. It's totally fucked. And the reality is, as white people, we have it easy. Yeah, we have, like, some white people have hard life. I'm not saying nobody white has hardship. My point is that we, as a people, are ungrateful for the fact that we have it easier than other people. It is our responsibility, me and all other white people, to spread and use our influence to increase the access to quality of life and information that minorities have. This is our responsibility because we all are beneficiaries. All of us white people, almost all of us, are beneficiaries of racism. We are part of a racist world. And if we act like racism is something separate from us, then it's never going to get better because it's just a bunch of people thinking they're above being racist when they're not. And racism and prejudice is fundamentally part of who you are. If you are raised in the world, you have prejudice. You aren't just a non-prejudiced person. Only a person who watches and monitors their actions and behavior and constantly asks themselves, am I being racist? Am I being prejudiced? That's the only person who can control it. Everybody else is a fucking racist, but you can't go around talking to people who have racist tendencies, talking about racism, because they don't want to hear it. And that's what's so frustrating about the whole race situation. For me as a person, like, I'm a white person, and I believe it's our responsibility. We have it easy, and it's our duty to increase the quality of life for minorities. That should be our purpose, our role. We can't just be like, oh, it was my ancestors who raped, murdered, and pillaged. I am totally unaffected by that in any way, because that's total bullshit. We have access to information, access to education. We are treated well in most places in the world for no reason other than having white skin. It's racist in a way that benefits us, and it's fucking dumb. But of course, you know, this is why I live alone. I'm not around other foreigners, and I left the Western world, and I'm happy living in an undeveloped country in poverty, when in reality I have all day to do whatever I want. All of my bills are paid for by work I did in the past, and I'm living it up, and I'm retired at 27. I have an amazing life. But again, I have an amazing life because of my ability to leverage my advantages, and one of those advantages is that I'm white. I have an easier time than other people do, and my role, my job, is to try and get other people who aren't white to be treated better, to have increased access to information and these things. I want to get by the time I die, I want to be a human who's influenced minorities to have a higher quality of life. I don't want people, the impoverished people of the world, I don't want them to become like people in the US who have all the material, but don't have the appreciation of the material. We need to find a balance, and ironically, it's easier. If you start poor, and then you get some material, you tend to appreciate the material and the wealth. If you start with material, you have to lose it to learn to appreciate it. Whereas poor people, once they have things, they tend to be much more appreciative. And I'm using a lot of generalizations here because I'm talking about racism and culture and all that stuff. But anyway, that was my rant for this. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of content, I know nobody's listening to this because literally it's a trending video about a topic. These videos have an average view duration of 10 to 15 seconds. So literally, if you are listening to me right now, you're Jamie. Hi, Jamie. And if you're not Jamie and you're listening to this, holy shit, you have patience, seriously. Comment below and just tell me I have patience. Thanks. Alright, everybody. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao!